so we're talking about how equilibrium can change. So since
Monday,
guys, since supply and demand make up equilibrium, and we know supply and demand don't stay the same, okay? We know that equilibrium is not going to stay the same either. Equilibrium changes. So the first way that equilibrium can change is if there's a change in demand. Okay, so we're going to start with just demand. So if you have those things that cause demand to change, remember those 6 things from demand. What are those 6 factors that cause a change in demand? Income,
consumer expectations,
consumer expectations. What else?
market size,
Market size.
Income.
complements, substitutes.
We already said income, substitutes, complements, and we already said income. Taste. Okay, so income, taste, market size, substitutes, complements, and expectations. Those are the 6 things that cause a change in demand. Okay? So what happens is that if we have one of those 6 things cause a right shift in demand. Okay, right shift in demand. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to draw this. Okay, so we're going to start with our supply and demand curves. Now, by the way, you don't have to, but would you like colored pencils for this?
No.
No?
Oh, what?
Colored pencils, anyone? Okay. All right, so here's our original supply and demand curve. All right, so now we are going to look at, here is our original equilibrium price and our original equilibrium quantity. Keep in mind that equilibrium has 2 parts, price and quantity, every single time. Price and quantity, price and quantity. Now, something happens. For example, maybe consumers really dig the product. They really, really like it. You get really awesome reviews. That would be what factor?
Consumer taste.
Consumer taste, okay? Awesome reviews for this product, and it causes our demand curve to shift to the right. Here's our new demand curve. Notice I labeled it as D1, okay? So here's our right shift in demand. Now we have a new equilibrium, okay? Because our equilibrium is always where the demand and the supply curves meet. Now we have a new demand curve, so now we have a new equilibrium. So here is our new equilibrium price, and here's our new equilibrium quantity. What happened to my price? Going from the old equilibrium to the new equilibrium, what happened to my price? It went up. What happened to my quantity going from the old quantity to the new quantity? It went up as well. So remember, the corner is 0. Okay? So anytime you have a right shift in demand, your equilibrium price and quantity will increase. So, right shift in demand, price and quantity will increase. Now, we also know that demand can decrease. So, if we have, you don't have to write the changes in demand again. I'm just reminding you this is still demand. So, it should be a 2. Sorry, I need to change that. It should be a 2. Left shift should be 2. If we have a left shift in demand, we start with our original supply and demand. Here's our original equilibrium price. Here's our original equilibrium quantity. Now we're having a left shift in demand. Okay, so what would be something that would cause a left shift in demand?
Unemployment rate goes up.
Unemployment rate goes up. What factor would that be? Income. So if the unemployment rate goes up, that means people have less income. So our demand curve shifts to the left. All of a sudden we have a new equilibrium. Our equilibrium has now moved, and now here's our new equilibrium price. Here's our new equilibrium quantity. What happened to my price? It went down. What happened to my quantity? It went down. So anytime you have a left shift in demand, your equilibrium price and quantity are going to go down. So what this is telling us is not only is the price going to drop, but less people are going to buy it. Okay, whereas a right shift in demand, our price went up and more people are going to buy it. Wait a minute, does that make sense? We already know that consumers don't like high prices, okay? But because the demand curve is moving, they are following. They are going to follow whatever is happening to the demand curve. Now, also take a look at this. Okay, take a look at this. Remember, we had change in quantity supply to change in quantity demand. What caused the change in quantity supply? The change in the price, right? Now, kind of ignore the demand curves here. What happened when we went from this point to this point on our supply curve? So going from here to here on our supply curve, what was that for our supply curve? We're going from, and I could label these as, the first one is A, the second one is B. What is that? That's a change in quantity supplied. What caused the change in quantity supplied? Yeah, but why did the price change?
We wanted it to change.
What caused the price to drop? What caused our equilibrium price to drop? The left shift in demand, okay? So all the time that we're talking about the quantity demand or the quantity supply, it's actually going to be because the other ones shift, okay? So actually a change in quantity supply is a result of our demand curve shifting, okay? So let's take a look at if our supply curve moved. So changes in supply. What were the 6 things that caused a change in supply?
Should be E. Expectations. Well, D was changes in.
Yes, it should be. You're right. Should be E. Should be E, changes in supply. Here's my problem is that I was copying and pasting my slides. I forgot to change a couple things. Okay, so what were the 6 things that caused a change in supply?
Income.
Expectations, not income, that's demand.
Government action.
Government action,
What's it?
what's the I one?
The imports.
Inputs.
Dang it.
Inputs. What else?
Labor and productivity.
Labor productivity. T,
Technology.
technology. N, number of producers, number of sellers, right? So, inputs, productivity, technology, government action, expectations, and number of sellers. Okay? Those are our 6 that cause a change in supply. So, for example, right shift in supply. If we are talking about, cars, what will cause a right shift in supply for cars?
Ford goes up is.
No, that's demand.
Oh,
That would be
right shift.
supply, that'd be a left shift. Ford goes out of business, that'd be number of sellers, that'd be a left shift. What else?
A new
Car dealership.
New car company, there would be a right shift. Okay? So, if we're looking at our original supply and demand, okay, so here's our original supply and demand, just like before. And here's our current equilibrium price, and here's our current equilibrium quantity. Now, every time that I've had you draw out your supply and demand curves, and you're like, why do I have to draw it? Why can't I just tell you it's a right shift or a left shift? The reason is now, because do we remember which one is a right shift in supply? Above the supply curve or below the supply curve? Below, okay? Because this is going to be our right shift in supply. Now we have a new equilibrium where our new supply curve intersects our old demand curve. So here's our new equilibrium price, and here's our new equilibrium quantity. What happened to my price? It went down. What happened to my quantity? It went up. Okay? Anytime you have a right shift in supply, the price will drop. Okay, but there will be more bought. So, again, this is our right shift in supply. We can also have a left shift in supply. So, for example, what would be something for a car company? This should be number 2, left shift, 2 left shift. I gotta fix these. 2 left shift. What would be an example of something causing left shift in supply for cars?
The one that Holly said.
Which was?
Ford goes out of business.
Ford goes out of business. That would be a left shift because that would be a number of sellers. So if there is originally our original supply and demand curve, here's our original equilibrium price, here's our original equilibrium quantity, and now we have companies going out of business, so that's not good because then we have our supply curve shifting to the left, and now we have a new equilibrium where our new supply curve intersects our old demand curve. So what happens is, there's our new price, there's our new quantity. What happened to my equilibrium price? Going from here to here, what happened to my equilibrium price? It went up. What happened to my quantity going from here to here? It went down. Okay? So, as a whole, somebody going out of business is not good because it's going to cause all the prices to go up, and there's going to be less out there for people to buy. Again, if you look at this and you look at just what happened on our demand curve, either the original equilibrium to our new equilibrium or vice versa, what does that mean? What do we call that on our demand curve? Change in quantity demand. Okay, and we said the change in quantity demand was a result. It's a result of the price, right? Change in quantity demand, we said anytime the price changes in our product, is change in quantity demand. What caused the price to change? The supply curve changed. Okay? So what I want you to be able to see is that we looked at it piecemeal so that way now when we put it together, hopefully it will be a lot easier. Okay? Because all of those, remember your extra credit that I had you do? Okay? And I said that you need to know your factors very well. This is why, because now, before when we had our test, I kept demand separate over here and supply over here. Now we're throwing them all in together and mixing them all up, and you have to be able to figure out if it's supply or demand. Okay? Yeah, lots of fun. Okay? So here's the thing: is that you have to have this straight. You have to have it straight in your head as to what's demand, what's supply, and you have to be able to figure it out. Because now, I'm going to ask you what happens to equilibrium. I'm going to give you an example, and you're going to have to tell me what happens to equilibrium. But keep in mind, equilibrium has 2 parts, price and quantity. Okay? All right, anybody have any questions about this so far? You good? All right, get out your ruler graph. And I'm going to have you add one last thing to your ruler graph in about 2 minutes. Okay. So here's your ruler graph. Here's what I want you to do. I have 4 sentences for you. 4 sentences, and if you don't have room on the front, you can write it on the back. Okay. Here's what I want you to do. I have 4 sentences that I want you to copy down. Okay. For each one, I want you to determine: is it supply or demand? Is it a right or left shift? And then I want you to draw the graph. So when I say draw the graph, I drew right now what the current graph looks like. I want you to draw illustrating the new change, the new shift. And then I want you to tell me what happens to equilibrium, price and quantity. Okay, so price and quantity. Please do not tell me equilibrium goes up. What does that mean? That's like a whole bunch of different things. Okay, because remember, equilibrium has 2 parts, price and quantity. So for the 4th question, all you have to do is you can just say P arrow up, Q arrow up, or whatever. Okay? So use those. Okay, I want you to take some time to work through these as a group, and then we'll go through them